612-919-5526, 612-919-5526, or autotech.org.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Tom Winston. Today is a sunny day with a high of 57. This afternoon, some rain and then a low of 46. And for Sunday, rainy, high 51. Join AM 950 for live election night coverage on Tuesday, November 5th from 7 until 11. AM 950, one of the few local media outlets providing in-depth coverage of Minnesota's key races and the state legislature. National coverage from Democracy Now! Will also be included.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Good morning, and welcome to Connections Radio Show, where we talk about ideas that matter. I'm glad you've made the connection and are with us today. I'm Lori Fitz, and the goal of our show is to explore a wide range of topics that challenge us to see ourselves, our community, and the world around us in ways that get us thinking, get us exploring, get us wondering, get us connected, and perhaps inspired or challenged to do just a bit more because we've made the connection. Our topic today is the choral connection in building community, joy, and perhaps change. Hosting with me today is Rick Bernardo, and his guest is Libby McLaren, a musician. She is a singer, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, performer, and music teacher. And a quote that I found on her website that I just love: she is a creative force with a gentle touch. Rick, tell us a little bit about how you met Libby.
Well, I met this gentle creative force years ago. I'm dating myself, but somebody has to. As Libby McLaren and myself, and there was Joyce Cooling on the venue at Golden Gate Park's band shell. This was arranged by our friend Alan Clausen, who was working with City Celebration in San Francisco. And somehow he said, "Could you guys just do this afternoon in the park?" And
Just do it.
And I don't know if I talked to Libby after that, but we spent about an hour on and off stage and just kind of hanging out a little bit. And I just remembered her the other week, and I go on the web and it's like, oh, she's been busy. She was already busy at the time. And it's just a wonderful part. I thought something in my heart and gut said, reach out and see if she could be on the show, because she still seems wonderful.
And she is. We had a chance to talk with you. Libby, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I also loved another quote on your website. Libby's passion for music is infectious. Her approach is immersive, and her knowledge is impressive. Whether you're wanting to learn to sing, play, or find out more about life and music, you've come to the right place when you go to her website. And I want to mention Libby's website. It's Libby McLaren, McLaren.com. And it's a fun website. You can explore all sorts of cool things.
Thank you.
So, Libby, you are a fourth generation Californian, and
Yes.
you were in your first band at age 19 was Night Flight, a Latin jazz fusion band. Tell us about that.
Oh, that was such a great band. We were all kids. We were practicing in the basement of a house we all lived in, and communal, life it's still, I was a teenager, for God's sakes. Latin jazz. It was a great band. Steve Gabori was the person who started it. He's a really well established musician, piano player, arranger, etc. In New York right now. And he started it with this great idea to have it be like the Miles Davis band, who had these two horns up front, and Steve instead wanted to have two singers up front. And it was all original music. It was super creative, Latin jazz. We lived in Berkeley, California. We stayed there for a year and a half, maybe. Then we moved to New York and had some wonderful instant success. It was a wonderful band, a great way to start my career.
You were signed right away to the GRP Records.
Yeah, like that. And we did shows, and it was quite a thing. It was really fun. It was a great way to get established in New York also.
And with that, you started branching out to some other musical styles that intrigued you. Tell us about that too.
Well, yeah, I mean, New York, what a great place. And it was
Uh-huh.
1977 that we moved there, and it was a wonderful time. And New York itself was a little shady, a little bit, but
I
to be,
remember visiting my friends in that year, and yeah,
it was a little shady. But
traveling
in general, it was a great
musical
place.
music.
The creative musical community was really, really receptive and open. I started doing choral work at that point. I joined a really excellent choral ensemble. And then, I started doing sessions and, reading scripts, reading through music for things that were happening on Broadway. And it was incredible. I joined a wonderful band called The Longhouse. I was Lisa Herman did that band, and that band featured 6 backup singers. And so we really, the choral sound is really important to me. And I really love having multiple singers singing all these different parts. I became an arranger. I do a lot of arranging and working with groups, even, all through my career. I understand it. It makes sense to me, and I love it. So anyway, so yeah, so we all branched out into different things from that band, and that band then unfortunately broke up. But we're all still super close friends, and yeah, it's cool band.
And so in the 80s, you did all sorts of cool things too, with the Beat Girls and
Right.
the Witches.
Yeah, right. So in the 80s, I joined. It was actually called the B Beat Girls.
That's right,
It
the
turns out
BB.
there was an
Yep.
A beat and there was a B beat in the disco world. And yes, I absolutely was a disco singer. A crazy.
Uh,
We wrote one song, and we had a producer who had great connections. And about a week after we had just kind of written this song and given it to this guy, I turned on the radio, and there it was on the radio. I thought,
oh my gosh.
God. So this was 1983, which was the height of disco, in my view. I mean, disco
Uh-huh.
still very much exists. Maybe not in America, but certainly in Europe and Eastern Europe, especially. And so that song became a thing. We got to be number 2 on the disco chart, on the Billboard disco chart. And it was also 1983, which is when the AIDS epidemic began, or sorry, did not begin, but was really in
Realized. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Mm. And so that was a very intense time because all the studios were packed, and
Yeah.
everyone was kind of saying, "Nah, it's not really a thing," and it's just the flu, or it's just this or that. And it was a sad thing through that summer of 1983 to watch. A lot of the grand population of Studio 54 and all the big discos in New York, they all started to have less people coming in, but
Mhm.
nonetheless, we did this big thing. It lasted for a summer. We got driven in limousines to all sorts of places, Atlantic City, and go up to Connecticut, and it was like it was crazy. We'd go and we would do 2 songs, and we'd arrive at midnight. We'd go on at like 3 a.m., get home around 7 or 8 in the morning. It was a lifestyle that was fine for one summer. Then after that, I was like, okay, that's enough of that.
It's fine.
And
For
then I
once.
was very, very lucky and got hired by the sister singing group called the Roaches,
Right.
and that was something that really changed my whole kind of career. Being out with them on the road for so many years and doing all these fancy shows, Johnny Carson and all of that, and we toured for 5 years, and there was never not a sold out show, never.
Wow.
They were amazing, and they're just an amazing mix of creativity, somewhat. I don't know. There's nothing like it, So, and I did meet you right in the middle or after, or towards the end of that, maybe, right?
That's exactly right. I was in California. I was kind of being bi-coastal. I had grown up here, as I said, and so I was kind of thinking, oh, maybe I'll move back to California. So I was here, and I was actually working with a singer when you and I met. I was accompanying a singer named Gail Marie, and she and I were kind of doing a little bit of a duo thing, and
Yeah,
I think it was her connection that got us that gig, the City Celebrations gig. I think it was
yeah.
because of Gail Marie. Anyway, that was
Cool.
a fun thing because I mean, Golden Gate Park is such an iconically beautiful place in San Francisco. So
And it's outdoors, and it was just a
right,
wonderful setting.
right, really, it was. I remember it just being a super fun day. Yeah.
Well, you said that you were bi-coastal, but by 86, you then moved back to California, right?
Well, I did. I was still on the road with the Roaches, and because I thought I would be on the road for a long, long time, which ended up not actually being true. But I thought, well, why not? I mean, who cares where I live? My parents were here. And so I thought, New York is a very intense place to live. And I could be out here in California and life could be a little bit easier. So I moved back here. And then I had the good fortune of being hired by a person named Robin Flower to come in and arrange some vocals on an album. And I was like, Robin Flower, like I've heard of her. Like, ooh, this is cool.
Yeah,
But I was a little starstruck, and
Uh-huh.
I remember going over to her house, and we just like clicked immediately. Like we just got right down to work and got the arranging done and figured out what to do, and all the while laughing and having a great time. And over a period of time, we fell in love and we're life partners as well as we've been doing music since then. I mean, it took a little minute for all that to happen. It didn't happen immediately, but yeah.
That's a wonderful transition to. We have a piece of music from the recent 1+1 album CD that Libby McLaren and Robin Flower have both created, and we're just going to hear about a little over a minute of this unique instrumental called Lightning Bugs. You want to say anything about it? We'll also hear the ending of the song when we come back. So everybody be ready for Lightning Bugs.
Imagine yourself pulling off the side of the road when you're on tour, and you open the door and you're just like, the sky is filled with stars and there's a big meadow out there. You don't really know where you are, and you start to see these lightning bugs start to show up.
I love it. I love it. And it does remind me of that. That's just magical.
Okay, thank you. Lightning Bugs.
Hi, my name is Katty from Minnesota Recovery Connection.
And I'm Erin with Minnesota Recovery Connection.
We'd like you to listen to our show, Redefining Recovery, a Recovery Revolution. It is on Saturdays at 10 a.m. on AM 950.
On the show, we discuss topics about addiction, understanding substance use disorder, the many pathways to recovery, and finding your personal journey.
Listen to Redefining Recovery Saturdays at 10 a.m. and find our podcast on your favorite app.
Hey, it's Freddie Bell, host of New Beginnings, designed for those of us more seasoned, I'll say, with informative talk on everything from health, finance, local and regional news, volunteerism, spirituality, and even a bit of humor tossed in. So if you're proud to be a more seasoned listener, tune in to New Beginnings Sunday afternoons at 1 right here on the Progressive Voice of Minnesota, AM 950.
If you've made the decision to level your home and build new or to renovate, hire Better Futures Minnesota to take it apart by hand. Think before you scrap. Think of the energy and greenhouse gases saved by diverting what can be reused and recycled from the landfill. Better Futures Minnesota can do it for you. Hennepin County residents and public entities, there are funds available to make the environmentally right thing to do comparable to demolition. Check out betterfuturesminnesota.com. That's betterfuturesminnesota.com.
Hi, I'm Bruce Klopfleisch. Join me every Sunday at 5 p.m. for Politics Matters. We'll talk about how civics, politics, and law affect you by highlighting a different topic each week. On this week's show, we talk about the upcoming election and why I'm watching the Senate races so closely, why the media is failing us again, and Brett and I preview the election. Tune in Sundays at 5 p.m. for Politics Matters with Bruce Klopfleisch to discover why government and civics matter, and podcast the show anytime on your favorite app.
Hi, this is Paul Metza, host of the Wall of Power Radio Hour. We on the air
No.
5410.
No.
We feature cool people from all walks of life in all 50 states. We've had musicians, politicians, actors, poets, people with great stories or a tale to tell. Tune in every Saturday night at 6 p.m. on AM 950, and podcasts are available on all streaming services.
I'm Dr. Stefano Sinacropi, an orthopedic spine surgeon and wellness evangelist, hosting the brand new Recharging the Human Battery show on AM 950 radio. My co-host Mandy Dickey and I will delve into various health topics ranging from medicine to nutrition to exercise, emerging technologies, and yes, some way out there stuff. Will provide a balanced view of today's landscape, helping listeners navigate its complexities and hoping to change the way you think about your health. Recharging the Human Battery airs Saturdays at 11 a.m.
There's a little more. Lightning bugs.
Oh, welcome back to Connections Radio
There's
Show.
another one.
There we are. Yes, we are.
There's one. There was one more.
Yes, yes. What you've been listening to is some beautiful music by Libby McLaren, who is our guest today. She is a musician, singer, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, performer, and music teacher. And the theme of our show is the choral connection in building community, joy, and perhaps change. And hosting with me today is Rick Bernardo, and this is his guest. Tell us a little bit about Libby.
And Libby, that was her song "Lightning Bugs" from 1+1, the album, the most recent album with Robin Flower. And I met Libby years ago in Golden Gate Park as we were on and off stage there, as she was in the middle of working with the Roaches, and I had heard about her, but I hadn't met her, and I just had a wonderful memory, and here she is.
Welcome, Libby. We're glad you're here.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. So let's go back to your time in New York, and you're exploring more choral music. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I fell in just so organically with a group of singers that became that we were welcomed into an already established choral group called the Euterpian Choral Ensemble. Euterp is the angel of singing. I know it's one of those mythological names.
I love that.
And it was cool. It was a 16 voice chorus, soprano, alto, tenor, bass. And I was an alto, always will be. And it was a wonderful ensemble of singers, really, really high level singers. And I had never been in a group of singers who could just sight read music and know how to sing and be able to follow a director so easily, so comfortably. And those people are still my dear friends. I mean, not all 16 of them, but maybe about 10 of them. I was just in New York last week, and all of us got together. It was a memorial situation, and we all got together to sing at this memorial. And it was amazing to come back after many decades and everyone still sing together. And I think a lot of that is the choral community that you mentioned, Lori, is something that's more than just literally the people in sitting in the chairs who are singing, that community of singers. It's a community of like-minded hearts. We have similar musical tastes. We're able to absorb the different genres of music that are being required by that particular choral singing situation. And when I say choral, I mean like sometimes two or more. Certainly backup singers, I call that a choral situation. Anytime you see three people singing backup, they're a chorus and they're making a choral sound. I tend to like the 16 and 20 voice or the 200 or 300 voice, but it's a commonality that choral singers have, which is our hearts open and are willing to kind of intimately engage with one another. And you become way bigger than the sum of the parts. I mean, you become this huge thing where we all our mouths work the same way, and all our jaws drop the same way, and all our pronunciations are the same way. And you sing all these different languages, Latin and French and Italian and German and, English, God forbid. And it's just, you have this way of approaching a song, and it lasts, I believe it lasts for a lifetime. You think people in church have that feeling, or, anybody who's lucky enough to sing backup or in choral things. It's a beautiful, it's a beautiful thing to have fallen into. And I really am grateful for those years.
There's been studies, you've probably seen it, literally heartbeats in a chorus, in a choral situation, they start to synchronize.
Mhm.
It's such a rooted thing. And my parents were in radio, and my dad would always tell us as kids that there's nothing as powerful and significant as the human voice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, from just my own experience and just singing with someone, there's something that happens that goes beyond the song. It's a sensing into each other that is amplified when you have musicians that are singing together. That I think not only are the singers in sync, but something happens to the community that's listening as well. Our hearts open and connect. It touches us in ways that I don't think we can always explain, because music has that. It's beyond words.
Right. That's really well said. When people say, "Well, describe it," it's like, yeah, you'd have to kind of be there. I was,
Yes, but people have been there, but
Right.
they don't take the moment to take it in.
Mhm.
And I think what choral does is allows you to feel like you are greater than yourself, but yourself has a voice, and it contributes. And I think sometimes in our society we don't feel like we have that contribution, and we've become more isolated. And I would wish for everyone that's hearing this today to think about, singing with someone. What does that like? How can we do more of that?
Well, to that point, like, man, the pandemic really messed it up.
Yeah.
Really messed it up. I had been directing a community choir, a women's community choir, for 22 years. And I mean, 30 people, a lot of people wanting to sing. And pandemic came along, and of course, everybody stopped their courses, and a lot of courses have begun. I didn't come back to mine because I'm still concerned about people getting sick. I taught at a camp in August this year, and I had never had COVID. I was a NOVID, very proud of my NOVID status. And I came home with COVID because I was one of the singing teachers there. We sang a lot in rooms. I mean, we sang hours every day, going through the class and all that. And ultimately, I came home with COVID, and it's like it really made me realize, oh man, you got to be so careful.
Yeah.
Like, you can't risk getting somebody who's old or has underlying problems. Like, you got to be careful. Anyway.
Well, with that though, the harmony is a great way to still sing in harmony. And tell us about how you've explored and created something for folks to think about with harmony.
Well, harmony is one of my favorite things. Harmony is two people, me and Celia Ramsey. And Celia lives in Napa, California, but she lived in Berkeley for a long time, for many years. And we were talking about something one day, I can't even remember apropos of what. And I was like, yeah, I've always wanted to make a how to sing harmony CD. And she's like, I did too. So we started mapping it out. We went in the studio. We created a 3 CD set. First one's beginner, second one's intermediate, third one's advanced. Basically teaching you, if you really want to learn how to harmonize, like, this is how you do it. And we give you all these different keys, and here's the melody, and here's the harmony, and here's the high part, here's the low part. We have all these PDFs that are available on the websites, and it's really cool. And we do workshops, and lots of people come to the workshops, and so it's a thing. Well, then comes the pandemic, and I'm on a Zoom, just visiting with her on a Zoom call with Celia, and she's like, we could do a video. And I'm like, video, because then we could do it at home during the pandemic. So I would create my segment, she'd create her segment. She's really tech savvy, but God bless her. And so she'd put it together. And so those first, if you go to the website, or if you go to Celia and Libby's Excellent Harmony Singing Lessons, Oh, what a name. If you go there, it's a YouTube channel. It's free. You can go and you can just learn how to sing on all our videos. And the first several were, you can see they're split screens because we were off, I was in Oakland and she was in Napa, California. But then as the pandemic kind of went on and we started getting bored with that, we would be at her house and we would have the windows open and the doors open, and I'd be on one side, she'd be on the other side. And so we could at least be in person and do this. And then ultimately, as the pandemic wore down, we finally were face to face and in that. But it's a funny set of videos because it starts out in the throes of the pandemic. But the point isn't the pandemic. The point is that it's a really great way to learn how to do harmony singing, and we're funny and we're charming
and there are harmonies on this next piece of music. We want to hear from your CD with Robin Flower called 1+1. This is called When the Congregation. And we'll talk about it when we come back. We want to hear just a little bit of this and then a little more when we come back from this album. Is that all right, Libby?
Yes, thank you.
All right. When the Congregation with harmonies.
This choir enters precisely on the consonant, the way a wooden stick hits a snare, and they find the long in unison, meet as a tapered finger pointing. Their chords are clear.
As the leaves change and the air turns crisp, there's no better time to cozy up with a good book. Fall has arrived, and so has the perfect season to explore Next Chapter booksellers. Whether you're seeking the latest bestsellers, cozy mysteries, or heartwarming classics, Next Chapter Booksellers has you covered. Not sure what to get? Ask a bookseller. They're great at making recommendations, and don't overlook their puzzles and games, ideal for brightening up those chilly gray autumn afternoons. So warm up this fall with Next Chapter Booksellers in St. Paul.
Hi, I'm Rachel Shamblot. My dad is Dr. Scott Shamblot from Shamblot Family Dentistry. A lot of people are afraid of the dentist, but you don't have to be. My dad makes going to the dentist comfortable and even fun. He won't be mad if you haven't seen a dentist in a long time. He just wants to take care of you and your teeth. If you don't see my dad, please see another dentist. Take care of your teeth because they're the only ones you get.
Shamblot Family Dentistry in Hopkins and St. Paul. Find them online at shamblotfamilydentistry.com or call 1-800-FIX-MY-TEETH.
Fall means back to school, and hands down the best vehicle for the family is the Toyota Sienna from Rudy Luther Toyota. It hauls everything in comfort. Lots of kids? Check. Mountains of sports gear? Check. A band's worth of musical instruments? Check. Multiple science projects and schoolwork? Check. And the Sienna Hybrid gets you fantastic mileage, and it's the safest vehicle I've ever driven, something I will brag about for the rest of my life. The Toyota Sienna is the perfect Minnesota family vehicle. Test drive one today at Rudy Luther Toyota, 5 miles west of Minneapolis on 394.
Hey there, AM 950 community. Join me, J. Peter Bogosian, every Saturday, 2 to 3 p.m. for a double dose of queer joy, This Queer Book Saved My Life, and The Gaily Show. These programs are a jubilant celebration of the transformative impact of queer literature and the dynamic spirit of LGBTQ plus culture and entertainment right here in Minnesota. Tune in and be a part of this vibrant community. For all the details, visit thisqueerbook.com and am950radio.com.
Hey, it's Patrick. We're headed full speed ahead into the holiday season, so the biggest question facing your home is going to be, is it ready for the holiday season? And if you look around at your carpet, tile, rugs, upholstery, and the answer is no, you need to call My Cleaning Heroes at Zero Res. Some people hire a deal of the day carpet cleaner to save a little money, but trust shouldn't come that way. Think about it. There is no licensing required to be a professional carpet cleaner. Don't DIY it. Call Zero Res because you know it's safe and effective. The Zero Res Gotta Love It guarantee makes it easy to get what you pay for. Zero Res absolutely stands behind every cleaning, so go ahead and get clean and don't miss this deal. Get back to clean and get 3 rooms of carpet clean starting at just $129 and take $75 off an air duct cleaning. Call my friends at Zero Res right now at 952-ZERO-RES or go online to ZeroResMinnesota.com and say you want the AM 950 special. Backward or forward spells the same. Zero Res.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Tom Whiteston. Today is a sunny day with a high of 57. This afternoon, some rain and then a low of 46. And for Sunday, rainy, high 51. The Great Wall Restaurant specializes in Szechuan and Mandarin cuisine. Conveniently located at 4515 France Avenue South at 45th and France in Edina. See their extensive menu at greatwallrestaurant.us.
ATNF AM 950, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
This choir enters precisely on the consonant when the congregation comes
And welcome back to Connections Radio Show, where we talk about ideas that matter and sometimes listen to amazing music. Our topic today is the choral connection in building community, joy, and perhaps change. And that piece of music did exactly that, bringing joy and a sense of community and looking for a way that we can continue to connect. And we have Rick Bernardo as my co-host today, and his guest is Libby McLaren. And she is a musician, singer, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, performer, and music teacher. Welcome, Libby. We're glad you're here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And Libby, I want to ask you more about how that song came to be, but I'm still shaking off the chills, which is not a bad thing to do from that song. And I'm reminded again, we were talking about choral singing before and voices together. And I'm also reminded how when I taught ethics for many years at the university, we would talk about language, which is a lot of what teaching and learning is about. But music is not, it's not representational. We don't have a word that stands for something. It's got its own thing. It's its own language. And we're born out of the womb knowing the difference between a different beat, a different cadence, a different tone, a different note. It's its own thing, and it's just so cool. And in that song, we hear a lot of different meanings that you mentioned before. We can't even put it in words exactly, but sometimes we add words. So tell me more about that song.
So I have a writing partner friend who lives in New Jersey, who is also a poet named Marcia Pelletier. She's a really cool poet. She has published a couple of books of poetry, and she this would maybe be 15 years ago, a lot of years ago. She sent around maybe to 30 of her musician friends about 50 of her poems, and said, look through these, see what you think. If there's one that catches your attention and you feel like writing a song to, I'm going to put together a double CD, or theoretically a double CD if enough people jump in, and you will write the music and you will sing the song and you will record it and you will take care of the whole thing and you'll send me the finished product. And so like 30 of us were like, okay, cool. And so everybody kind of like, I remember thinking, oh, I want that one about the congregation. I hope no one else took it. And luckily I snuck in first on claiming dibs on that one. And so the double CD is called Little Noises, and it's a group of New York musicians and singers and songwriters. and we all wrote songs. So I had those words came from Marcia, and I just kind of sat down, over the course of a few days and wrote the song, and then realized that it being a congregation, we needed to have multiple harmonies. And so I just arranged all those harmonies, like, let's just do them like crazy. So what we just heard was Robin and me from our CD 1+1 doing that. But the original was from way back in, I don't know, 2000 and something. I mean, I know now is 2000 and something, but time is like, oh, who knows?
Before that.
Maybe 10 or 15 or even possibly more years than that. And I wrote the song and did everything she wanted and sent it to her, thinking, well, this is going to be a cool project, never realizing the quality of musicians that she was going to have on this thing. I mean, like it's a star-studded CD, and I'm super proud to be part of it. Yeah, so that's how that comes. And even though I wrote it so long ago, it's still one of the songs that Robin and I do in our show. I mean, it has stood the test of time. It's cool. We love singing it.
And you mentioned Robin. Robin Flower is your musical collaborator and life partner. And we
Right.
talked a little bit about that in the first segment. And you began a lifelong musical journey together and continuing, successfully and joyfully creating music together.
Yeah. Yeah, we have about maybe 7 CDs, maybe 7 or 8 CDs. And, we're always in the process of writing new stuff. And, pandemic kind of screwed that up. Everybody stopped performing. And then, kind of starting the engine again was like, we need to get AAA out here to jumpstart the battery. It was a little intense.
Have you found the music changed at all after the pandemic? Have you found that you've taken on a different texture at all?
Lori, that is a really good question. Yes. How exactly? I'm not sure. I think there's a certain acknowledgement that, wow, like this whole thing, life as we know it, might have gone down a really different road. And it did go down a different road for millions on Earth. And I think there's a certain humbleness that if that I'm grabbing at straws for a word here, but I think there's a certain humility that came post pandemic. We all realized that we easily could have been one of the millions of people who died, and the absolute joy of having lived. I mean, remember those first days when
yes,
the vaccines came out and everybody was like, oh my God, I can hug you. Oh my God, I can have people over. Oh my God, we can have wine together instead of just outside. Like you can come in my house. I mean, it was quite a heady feeling. And I think that has translated into a lot of us musicians, a lot of artists have talked about that. Like, ever since the pandemic, I feel super inspired and super driven to create, and like all this, like, what if it went away again? It's like, I wouldn't want that to happen. So yeah, that's a great question. I think, yeah, it has changed.
Well, I also think that there grew a hunger during that period of isolation.
Yeah.
And that there's a deeper satisfaction, especially in like the choral music, especially when there's harmony.
Mhm.
And we're still seeking, I think, that harmony. I don't think we quite come out of the shell-shocked alienation that occurred, and we're still, I think, kind of finding our way back.
Mhm.
But when we hear music that comes together, when we hear the choral, when we hear that contributions can be made and connect with each other, I think there's something that's very healing about it as well.
Mhm. Yeah.
I remember leaving my apartment at the end of the day during the early days of the pandemic, just to sit on the sidewalk and watching people from a distance, because that's all that was safe. And now, after a while, it was like I could talk to somebody and maybe not even die.
Yeah.
Now, in getting back out, are you doing stuff again with like contra dance musicians and workshops and writers? Tell us about all that stuff.
Mhm. Well, yeah, contra dancing. We do the occasional contra dance. I mean, Robin's a fiddle, guitar, mandolin player, so she generally plays fiddle on those things, and I bring a keyboard, and we just go out as a duo. And we have loads of friends who are callers, and this area around here has loads of contra dancing. And so, my friend Celia Ramsey, she calls, and she's a great caller. And so we all, we're kind of an adjunct to that community. We're definitely not in the heart of it, but we do that. The Carmony, we do workshops, tons of those workshops. Teaching at camps, of course, that returned, which was wonderful. Robin and I both teach at camps. I love theory, so I teach theory at camps, and I teach stagecraft and singing and harmony and all that stuff. So yeah, I mean, definitely getting out there, definitely doing shows, definitely leaning into embracing the in-person thing. For me, the main thing that's missing in my life is the choral work that I do here at home. I work with different groups. I work with like 4 people who come over who are in a band, and I'll arrange stuff for them, but it's not the same as like conducting a whole choral ensemble or being in a choral ensemble. Last week I was in New York City, and a whole lot of us got together and we all sang together again, like I was mentioning before. And it, that was like, oh my God, how much I have missed this. So
it ignites something in you.
Yeah.
Well, I also want to promote your other website. We promoted the Libby McLaren, which is McLaren, but you can also find it on flowerandmclaren.com. And there's cross-referencing between the two, but we just want to make sure that you check out that website as well. And there's a song coming up that Rick's going to tell us a little bit about.
Yeah, and there's a discography page on those websites, by the way, where you can go and get these songs from the 1+1 album, which is the most recent one from Robin Flower and our guest Libby McLaren. This song next is County Down, and it's such echoes of roots in Celtic and country music.
I listened to it like 3 times this morning before the show. I just kept listening to it over and over. I absolutely adore it.
We'll hear a little of this as we go to the next segment, and then we'll hear towards the end of it again when we come back. This is County Down.
Oh, can you hear me? Oh, can you hear me? As you roam through lonely London town, when evening's falling, you'll hear me calling. Come on home now to the county down. Do you remember?
End-of-life decisions are not easy to make. Hi, I'm Mary T. of Mary T. Hospice Care. It's important to make sure that this difficult time is meaningful and comforting to you and your loved ones. Our hospice team provides an individualized program of physical, emotional, spiritual, and practical care so your loved one is comfortable and not in pain. At Mary T. Hospice, we understand that choosing the right hospice care provider can be overwhelming, but we're here to assist you. Learn more today at marytinc.com.
Whether you rent or own a home, we all likely have nightmare stories about home maintenance, or what I like to call home cringe moments. Join me, your host, Katie Shahan, for the Yarlow Home Cringe Show. See what home cringe-worthy stories we have for you each week as we talk with local home service pros. Learn best practices for winterizing your home or what to look for after a hailstorm. Listen to the Yarlow Home Cringe Show every Sunday at 2 p.m. or on your favorite podcast app.
It's time to experience the amazing flavors of eatlocalminnesota.com. It's your key to unlocking the best local and independently owned restaurants in the Twin Cities. Nightingale off 26th and Lindale is where good times and great flavors unite. Chef Carrie keeps it fresh with seasonal dishes, or savor classics like the Nightingale Burger, steak tartare, and irresistible chocolate pot de crème. Explore tasty vegetarian, vegan, and gluten-free options, and enjoy craft cocktails, curated wines, and half-price wine bottles every Monday. Open daily 5 p.m. to 1 a.m. More at nightingalempls.com. Maverick's Real Roast Beef in Roseville sets the bar when it comes to roast beef sandwiches. But let's not forget their other mouthwatering offerings. From Philly steak to turkey bacon avocado, BLT, crispy chicken, fish, brisket, and pulled pork, the menu is a flavor-packed delight. Don't miss out on their delicious variety. Explore the full menu at mavericksbeef.com. Your taste buds will thank you.
Tuesday, join AM 950 for live election night coverage from 7 until 11 p.m. Your voice in action. Matt McNeil kicks things off from 7 until 9 with early results and interviews, followed by Bruce Klopfleisch and me with updates as results roll in. Greg Bakken will be in our Election Central studio with real-time updates all night. Catch us on the radio airwaves or watch the live stream on Facebook and YouTube. In fact, put our Facebook or YouTube feed on your own TV instead of one of those national cable networks. So tune in. That's Your Voice in Action with AM 950 on election night.
This is Andy Otto, your host of Twin Cities Pride Amplified, inviting you to join us this Saturday at 3 p.m. as we visit with Jimmy Lucky, our board chair at Twin Cities Pride. We'll talk to Jimmy about why he got involved, some of his favorite ways we're working to create community, and also where he'd like to see us grow in the future. That's this Saturday at 3 p.m. right here on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
And young ones needed again in Newry, but I still need you the most of all. Oh, can you hear me? Oh, can you hear me as you roam through lonely London town? When evening's falling, you'll hear me calling. Come on home now to the county down. Come on home now to the county down.
Welcome back to Connections Radio Show. And our topic today is the choral connection in building community, joy, and perhaps change. Hosting with me is Rick Bernardo, and his guest is Libby McLaren. And Libby, thank you for that song. That is so beautiful.
Thank you.
And it just rings in me of connection. It rings in me of like, can you hear me? And it is about hearing the voice that is not there, but that's always with you.
Right. That song was written by the most fabulous, wonderful, incredibly fabulous person, Tommy Sands, from the Sands family in Ireland. That they're like the royalty of
Wow.
singing. And yeah, so we met. We were in Ireland and we met Tommy and his wife and had a lovely tea with them, of course, as one does. And then we had heard that song, and I thought, oh God, I would love to sing that song. So yes, I would like to have written that song also. But we do it, and it's so Irish and so evocative of Ireland and that longing.
Yes. And you were sharing with me earlier before our show about the crossroads in Ireland. Tell me about that again.
Oh, well, yeah, a lot of, you had mentioned, it's so great when community comes together and like sits around a fire and, you have people coming in. Well, in the old days in Ireland, people would gather at the crossroads. Literally one road would cross another and they'd meet at those corners, and like a fiddle player would show up or a flute or whatever, and people would come and they would dance, and they would have kind of a, like the official contra dancing, the original contra dancing, and they would do things, and they'd sit there for maybe the evening or for an hour here and there, and then everyone would kind of split off in their four directions and go back to their homes. But it's such a poignant image of coming together at the crossroads. In other words, there are no cars coming. You don't have to worry about, and a fiddle player shows up or an accordion player shows up, and there you go. And you've got to dance for as long as it lasts, and then everybody goes back home. I mean, what a great image. Whoa.
And it's a great metaphor of hope to me. What can it take for us to all meet at that crossroads, right?
Yeah.
What can we do to bring what we have and meet with others on the other side of that crossroad? And it feels like we're at such a crossroads right now that needs to be filled with hope, that needs to be filled with dancing, that needs to be, turn the page. Let's come back together. And I think part of it was the whole pandemic, and we're still reeling from it. But the image of meeting at a crossroad and singing and dancing and listening to music, how beautiful is that?
Yeah, that's great. Yes.
And there's another reason we have people like you, Libby, on our program is because we've heard a number of times on our programs and our broadcasts how music is not only a primal language, but it connects us in so many deep and wide ways. And it's hard to sing or be part of music or share food with somebody or laugh with somebody without being in love.
And,
Yeah.
and sharing that love and joy. Well, I want to make sure that we promote your website again, Libby McLaren, McLaren.com. You have all kinds of beautiful music that's for sale, and I'm going to have Rick share about how to get to that.
LibbyMcLaren.com. And there's also flowerandmclaren.com website. There are discography pages. Just look at the top of each page, click on it, and there's a list of your CDs, which is like there's such a body of work since Libby and I first met decades ago. Do you want to say anything more about that discography and how that works?
No, it works great.
Okay.
We have a great website situation, so we could just, you place an order and then I send it to you.
Okay. All right. Simple.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that audience knows that by supporting musicians, you're really, supporting art and you're supporting the future. And the future of good music continuing. So we hope that you'll take some time to not only explore that beautiful website, but listen. What's nice also about that discography is that you can listen to some of the songs and get kind of a taste. But it's just wonderful music that does bring joy and that does open your heart. So with that, are there any, closing comments that you'd like to share with our audience?
Yes. I always like to end by saying, if playing music interests you, find a teacher. Go do it. There's no time like right now. Music will fill your heart, will relax your brain, and will fill your house with music. And it's a wonderful challenge. It's great for your brain, especially as we get older. It's a great thing to do for your brain. And if you're a person who's don't really want to play music, but you want to support music, go out, support your local musicians, go to the shows, bring your friends to shows, buy the CDs, support musicians. Everybody needs supporting. I get it, but sometimes musicians get a little lost in the shuffle. So I really encourage that. And I also thank you, Lori and Rick, for this show, for what you bring to the beautiful state of Minnesota, and what a beautiful state that is. And just for being, for putting yourself out there and for bringing people like me in to be able to share my stories with your listeners. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, absolutely. You bring us joy. And each musician that we've brought on has given us another perspective and another heart opening. And what I want to encourage, especially during this stressful time of our elections, is to listen to music and to open your heart to that music and to hope and to change and to bringing the world together again.
And there's a deep brilliance, I would suggest, within and among all of us that has to do with music. And so just look for it. It's such an important part of any healthy soul and culture. Joe Thomas was a jazz musician. Music is prayer with wings, and it's a vital, vital language. So thanks, Libby, for being with us here.
Sure. Thank you.
And also thank you for all the great things that you're doing out in the community. It's great fun and you're out there doing stuff. I loved some of the work that you did to help support the state parks and making a change. So thank you for all that.
Values. Thank you.
Yeah.
And with that, we'll look forward to having you all join us next week here on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, on Connections Radio Show, where we talk about ideas and songs that matter.
Crooner's Supper Club invites you to enjoy drinks, a delicious dinner, and live music from both big-name local and national artists in a wide array of styles. Before or after your show, check out the new Maggie's Lounge.
Hey, Libby, you still there?
Yes, I am. Thank you so much, you guys.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was great.
A delight and joy.
Yes, a delight and joy. Yeah. So have